Howdy, everybody. Bob Tallman for No Spin Rodeo. No politics, no BS, just hard-hitting news and rodeo commentary from two of the most trusted sources in our sport. Kendra Santos, Tommy Joe Lucia. Listen up. Here we go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 58. This is No Spin Rodeo, and it's pretty cool. We're all still vertical and moving, and thank you for joining us. If you're joining us live, hello to all of you. If you're joining us later on the podcast, thanks for joining us. Hard to believe we're 58 into these, but just trekking through rodeo as we know it, joined by our producer, Greg Teagarden. Hello, Greg.
Howdy, everybody.
And we've got the First Lady of Pro Rodeo Journalism, the one that's sitting in front of the historic Cowtown Coliseum. You look dashing. Hello, Kendra. How are you today? Well, everybody, at least this is live and unrehearsed. You can see that Kendra looks dashing. She looks really good, and she's staying really put. So while we're waiting for Kendra to jump back in, Greg, tell us a little bit. You were in Corpus. Give us a little coffee time on Corpus Christi.
So yeah, we did Corpus this year, and we just did some, helped out with this integration with the building and their scoring and timing system. But it was very interesting. They had a whole new timing system there this year, trying to do the start, the red green start, and it was actually pretty interesting. It was a little bit of a rough start, but I think by the next second or third performance, it was actually kind of exciting. So I thought it fit pretty well to the system, and I have like respect for the WCRA and what they're trying to do and trying to get make it a little bit different than a regular rodeo.
Well, and it's matching, I think, the Kid Rock Rodeo format, because that's where this is coming in. Now, I don't think they did that in Fort Worth, which was a qualifier also. I believe Fort Worth was a qualifier also into the bracket from somewhere or another. There's a lot of different things.
Yeah, this was their qualification so they could get the Corpus team put together. So the winners out of here, which is nice for the team, because now they have a little bit of an idea of what's supposed to happen and how that works and how that affects your, when you're in competition. Some of the things they did were pretty impressive with the basically taking the nod away from timed event competitors. When that clock hit 0, that gate opened, and there was no nodding, or there wasn't even like a head start to the stock. They just had to go out and get them, and it threw off some guys at the beginning because they were running out faster than the animal. I think the biggest change is for barrel racing, because barrel racing, you have to basically hit the start line when the clock hits 0. Because the run starts as soon as that clock hits 0. And so some people will be out back. It was kind of difficult in Corpus, but they had plenty of signage, plenty of ways to show what the clock was saying all the way in the back there. But it's about timing your horse to get to that starting line when the clock starts.
Or when the green light, right?
Yeah.
So and they get penalized in the ground rules. They get penalized if they go on a yellow light or go on a red light, right? They don't get penalized after it's green. Now,
No.
Are the contestants watching a clock back there, or are they just seeing the lights?
No, there's a clock. There's an actual countdown, as well as, there's the color that lets them know when it's ready. And the thing the clock starts when the green light goes. It doesn't matter where you are, that clock starts. And it was interesting because there was contestants that had fast enough times to win, but because they weren't at the starting line, it adds on to that, their time. The run time would have been fast enough to win in a normal rodeo. So,
yeah. So, and it's basically 10 seconds. So it's 30 seconds total. You've got 10 seconds of red. Is that right? Does that sound right? 10 seconds of yellow?
No, they have 15 seconds. Yeah, it starts at 15 seconds. And when you get to 6, it turns to yellow. And then when it gets to 0, it turns to green. And then there's a ready time, which is about 30 seconds prior to that, but they actually cut it down to like 15 seconds. So you have 15 seconds of before they even get into the countdown. So that's like getting ready, getting on your horse, getting into the box. So
okay, so everybody that's joining us to get caught up, essentially Greg is doing a preview of kind of what they were doing at Corpus Christi, where they selected the people for the free riders. That's the Bobby Moat coach team that'll be going in the Kid Rock. Hello, Kendra.
Oh, Lord.
You made it back. All right.
You're back with us.
Let me tell you what happened here. Am I sideways right now?
Nope, you look good.
Okay, because what happened was we're going live and it says temperature too hot.
Oh.
It might be doing it again.
Oh. Is it a little warm there?
Yeah, I'm outside. Like, you can't see me right now, can you?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, well, I can't see you. This is
Okay.
nice.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. So,
Okay.
anyway.
Well, while you're away, Greg and I just basically talked about Corpus, and what I was getting to for the fans that are watching us live or listening to us later, Corpus is where they competed with the similar formats, and I think it was a test run for Kid Rock Rodeo's technical side. So the things that Greg was just talking about with the timing to run in and the timed events, and in rough stock, the way I understand it is you have 30 seconds to nod your head and go. And that's after the head official says arena clear. Read that in the ground rules. So and these guys are riding, for instance, bareback horses. One team will match a rider up with another team. And so the first guy goes, when he gets off, the judge says arena clear. The other guy has 30 seconds to nod his head or he gets penalized. And after 45 seconds, I think he's disqualified. So these are some of the new rules that are going to be a part of Kid Rock Rodeo that Greg was just talking about that they did at Corpus. And the timed events, there's basically a clock. And when the light turns green, you have to go. The calf gets let out, the steer gets let out, the barrel horse has to go because the clock starts on that green light. So that is a very simple version of a big, giant set of ground rules and a lot that goes into the Kid Rock Rodeo and the qualifier at Corpus. So where we were, Kendra, is what I said was when you went hot, we'll just say when you went hot, I said the first lady in pro rodeo journalism, she's in a beautiful location at the historic Cowtown Coliseum, and I said, you look dashing, and then you never moved. It was like Weekend at Bernie's.
Well, it is a little warm out here, but I didn't think it was. Oh, hello. They're all the Cowboy Channel girls are walking by in their cowboy hats. Anyway, yes, I am here at the Cowtown, which is hopping, and I cannot see you guys, so I apologize. I don't know if you can see the Coliseum behind me, but there's like the Women's Rodeo Championships going on right now. Then Wednesday, Thursday is the PBR Finals Redemption rounds, and then we all go over to AT&T for the Kid Rock Rodeo, and then Saturday, Sunday finishes up the 2025 PBR World Finals. And so the stockyards is a flutter, but my phone's really bummed out at how warm it is, I guess. Anyway, apologies. So I cannot see you guys.
Well, we look just like we always look, so nothing's much changed. Well, what we're going to do, interesting take on today's show, Kendra is going to introduce a guest, and we thought it was interesting because what this show's kind of about is all of the stuff that's going on. There's there is the women's rodeo championships that are happening, and they're VRQ qualified. And the interesting thing about that is the top 8 of those will go to AT&T Stadium and compete on the 17th. 7 of them qualifying there at Cowtown. 1 coming in on it's a bit confusing, but on a last chance qualifier. But they're going to get to compete at AT&T, and that's cool. And that's, you know, remember, I'm just harkening you back to our last conversation with Sean Gleason. Remember, he tried to cut a deal with the WPRA. He did not say that, but he tried to cut a deal with the WPRA. It didn't work out, so they started their own thing. There you have it. And so that's just more opportunity for women. So that's one of the things Kendra talked about. But the overall arch of the show, just to catch everybody up, is about the Kid Rock Rodeo. And we have an interesting guest. And Kendra, I'm going to kick it over to you and let you introduce our guest. And we'll bring him in and we'll chat about Kid Rock Rodeo last year and 2025.
Well, I'm really excited to have Jarvis Demery on today's show because he's the perfect poster person for what this is all about. He and so since I can't see you guys, has Jarvis joined us?
Jarvis was on, and then maybe his phone heated up, so he's coming. So just give us a really big ramp
okay.
up.
So the basics of it is, last year I'd never heard of Jarvis Demery when I went down to Corpus Christi, and this kid from Beggs, Oklahoma, who goes to school at Southeastern Oklahoma State, he lit things up there and he won it. And you know how the nominations stuff works at the WCRA is you nominate events that you go to anyway. Well, he had $644 invested, and he goes to Corpus Christi, wins it, and then he goes. So he's on the Free Riders, the WCRA's team, and then they win it. So he wins 52 grand, and that is rather life changing for a young man like this. And it was so cool. Well, then fast forward to over the weekend back at Corpus Christi, and Shad Mayfield and Jarvis Demery go 1-2. Well, Shad was already drafted for by Fred Whitfield on the Sledgehammers, and so here comes Jarvis Demery back on Team Free Riders, and so now he's set up to go back to AT&T, which is a really big deal, and he's like the perfect person to talk about what it was like down there on that arena floor.
Well, I know you. So, hello, Jarvis. Welcome to the show. Kendra cannot see all of us. Hopefully, Jarvis, you can see us. So she's kind of doing this show by braille. So I wanted to let her know you have joined us, and we did a really big ramp up. Welcome to No Spin Rodeo. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, since I can't see anything because my phone's overheated, Jarvis, are you in your truck? Are you out at the practice arena? Where are you right now?
I'm actually, I walked up to the house and walked into the office. I got horses saddled up and cattle up, so we're good.
Good deal. Okay. So I wanted just a couple fun things for people who don't know you, because last year, and I don't know how we're going to describe this on a podcast, but last year, like I saw in person, I saw you swing your rope, and it is one of the most unorthodox. This year at the timed event, Stetson Jorgensen, who normally steer wrestles, he had a really unorthodox swing, but he was very, very effective roping. It was really interesting. But you, I don't know how it happened. I know that you told me that you kind of started roping. You and your brother CJ, your dad bought you guys 8 goats, and you taught yourself to rope in a little bitty pen roping goats, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But
Yeah.
you describe how you hold your rope, because it's like deep in the palm of your hand, right?
Yes, ma'am. So I'm not able to, like others, use their index finger to kind of guide their rope. I can't do that. If I do that, my rope will go 8 feet in the air. But I hold it in the palm of my hand, and actually I can bend my index finger, and that's kind of how I control it.
Most people, it would be very foreign. I mean, it's completely different from everybody else.
Oh.
One thing I noticed when I watched Corpus Christi on TV this time is that you ride into the box with maybe the smallest loop to start with that I've ever seen. So, like, do you feed your rope a bunch, or what? Why the small tiny loop?
I feel like it helps me get my rope up faster to where I can take my first swing, and I usually feed it on that first swing to where that second swing comes around and I'm ready to deliver it wherever my calf may be. But I don't know. I feel like with my smaller loop, I can get up faster to where I can get a faster throw if I need to. There'll be some rodeos where I'll start with a bigger loop just to kind of, if I know a calf will run a little bit more and I don't want to try the barrier as hard. But this kind of depends on where I'm at. Like Corpus Christi, those calves are outstanding, and I knew I needed to get my rope up fast, and so to have a throw right there, and also didn't want to figure eight any tails or a leg, and so I kind of smaller loop there.
Well, before we talk about like your financial return on investment, um, I would love for people, and I don't know you well at all, but you were raised with modest means, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so nothing's been handed to you. You've worked for it all. But I mean, to this day, you have to win. You have to work. I remember you telling me last year that you took a gap year in college to work for a pest control company, right?
Yes, ma'am.
To make some money. And now I think it's interesting. Like guys who try to make horses can really relate to this. But it's tricky. You make your own horses, and you also take outside horses. But what people maybe don't stop to think about is like, okay, well, when you're training horses, you can't be gone on the rodeo trail, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's an interesting thing. But what you were saying to me, I don't know, a day or two ago was like this kind of an opportunity is perfect for a guy like you who you actually nominated. Is it ACRA rodeos, American Cowboys Rodeo Association, and college rodeos and jackpots, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so talk about how it went last year because it's all the stars are aligning to have the same chance this year. Last year you spent 644 bucks and then in two rodeos you won 52 grand, correct?
Yes, ma'am. And within 10 days, yes, ma'am.
How big of a deal? I mean, you I think it would be interesting for you to tell people. You told me that the first time you got an email about this, you thought it was a joke, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I think at that time, thanks to my girlfriend, I think she had nominated for me like the ACRA finals, maybe one pretty good jackpot, and then the CWRA finals. And I thought there was no chance for me to be able to be in the top. I think it said I was 26 out of 36. And the only thing I could think of was, oh man, the worst that can happen is I drive clear to Guthrie and they tell me I didn't make it, and I turn around and have to go home. And so I had 4 hours worth of diesel. But that was a chance I was willing to take, and they said there was no entry fee, so really couldn't lose there. And sure enough, I showed up there, and they let me in, and it turned out pretty good then as well.
And so the 52 grand that you won in 10 days last week, did you reinvest that into rodeo?
I did. Um, I used it to I rodeoed a little bit last summer. Um, I went to a lot of rodeos by myself actually, and then also I used some of it to I kind of nominated a few more rodeos than what I have been, just because I wanted to stay in that top six for sure, and knowing that I didn't rodeo hard enough, and also I was on a permit. I didn't rodeo hard enough last year to get into the top 40 of the world to where I'm not accepted into all the buildings. So I
Right.
still have to go to the qualifiers. And so those guys that get into the winter rodeos, the buildings like San Antonio or Denver, Austin, they kind of they kind of have an easier route to where they'll get almost double the points I can get at a college rodeo or from jackpots around here.
Okay. And so like okay, so then so you're going to these amateur rodeos, jackpots, college rodeos to season horses, but then okay, then you get to these big huge stages and your friend and neighbor, is it Calvin Johnson?
Yes, ma'am.
Lets you ride Old Faithful, 20 years old Stanley,
Yes, ma'am.
and and here you go. Um, I would. since Tommy Joe went last year to the first inaugural Kid Rock Rodeo. I did not. But I would love to know what it was kind of like on that arena floor as a contestant.
As a contestant, that was different for me just because I've never seen an arena that big and set up like that to where it was longer wide than what it was down and back. And so it was just kind of, it was really different, especially with the light system and going head to head. And there's no center line to where a wreck can be had there. But I mean, the fastest guy wins.
Right. And back to like, I guess we should back up to Saturday night this year. Last year you roped in Corpus Christi against the likes of Shad Mayfield and Riley Webb. And this year it came down to it. And two of the three high calls were you and Shad, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so Dalton, is it Porch from
Yes,
South Dakota, went first in the 3-man round, the Kid Rock round. And then you went and you were 9. You like set the place on fire, right? And then
yes.
Shad was 8,
8.
whatever. But so okay, so to clarify, because Shad it was already drafted on Fred Whitfield's team, the Sledgehammers. So here you go again. But tell people about what happened before the 3-man round between you and Shad. You guys have been friends. You've been roping against each other since you were kids, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so
He's
what was it you told him?
An old man once told me pressure makes water go uphill, and I was gonna see how much pressure he could take today. And
And did he get a kick
he,
out of
the
that?
umpire fired back, we're gonna see about it. And matter of fact, when I told him congratulations and shook his hand, he said pressure didn't go uphill today.
Ah, golly. Okay. So you will soon graduate
Yes,
from
ma'am.
Southeastern Oklahoma State University with a safety degree, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have, I mean, do you feel like that's rodeo career insurance?
I wanted to have it, yes, ma'am, for when I'm done rodeoing, to where if granted, I hope to rodeo smart to where I don't have to do anything but enjoy life after rodeo. But I wanted to have it as a backup plan, as well as I'm also a licensed welder, and I still can do. I'm a licensed pest control, uh, whatever, and then so I just kind of I wanted to make certain I had a degree to where my parents always told me a degree is something that nobody can ever take away from me. To where if I have it, it is mine. I can always go back to it.
And you are the first person in your family tree to ever graduate from college, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Which is a point of pride, I'm sure, for your parents.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so back to the Kid Rock Rodeo. You said something about, okay, people were you said that the team atmosphere reminded you of high school rodeo, right?
Yes, ma'am. It is darn sure it was different because like high school to where you have your friend group to where you knew when I backed in the box, somebody's got their head, somebody's pushing, somebody's making sure my horse's feet is right, somebody kicks the box down for me, to where everything is taken care of. And when you rodeo individually, it's kind of like that, but not always. It's kind of more cutthroat for guys, especially once you kind of get down to the wire at the year end. But for like Kid Rock's rodeo, I mean, when you're on a team, you know for a fact that somebody's got your back there because they told us, hey, you gotta be helping your team, and we're here for our team. Well, heck, I still had guys from other teams that said, hey, this is what you need to do and this and that, and just kind of help me be in the right places at the right times. To where when they did tell me, I originally wasn't supposed to get the rope, and it was a last minute deal, and I had already took my boots off, my horse was uncinched, I didn't have a rope on, and they told me I was supposed to be in the next arena within like 20 seconds. And thankfully, I had a outstanding team And so Cody Dozer was trying to cinch my horse up. He actually put all my boots on while I was trying to grab the right rope I wanted to use. And then Coop Regger actually hooked my rope on. I made certain everything was right, and actually Cody pulled my back cinch tight as I was backing in the corner, and he was the one to make sure my horse was standing correctly and be ready to go.
So the old camaraderie, even between different people in different events and the whole bit.
Yes, ma'am.
You know what seems another thing really different about this deal for me is that you may not. Some people can't went there and never nodded their head, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So the coach decides I don't really get it totally yet so far. You know, I'm going to see it with my own two eyes Friday night this year, but so you may not even go. You also may not have your best day and still win 27 grand. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. That is actually what happened to me last year. Actually, I thought old 20-year-old Stanley was locked and loaded and ready to go, and he had other plans. And so we ended up being just a little bit off the start and running a few more strides down and ended up being a little bit longer than Riley Webb. But thankfully, we had a really good team, and I think it ended up coming down to the barrel racing, and Mackenzie Mays surely brought it home for us.
Have you ever really watched the barrel race before or cared as much about the outcome?
Um, I like watching barrel racing for I like watching horses, actually really good horses work. But I don't think I've ever been that invested in watching barrel racing until that night.
Well, did you stay for the concert?
Um, yes and no. We actually were trying. We had to take pictures with our gold medals, and we're answering press questions inside the one of the booths inside. And so by the time we got out, I think he was on like the last two songs. And so by the time then, I needed to go get my horse taken care of and get on the road.
Yeah. Do you like Kid Rock?
Oh, I love it. For my first concert, I think that was the pick.
Do you have a favorite Kid Rock song?
It would have to be Cowboy for me. Just growing up watching NFR and watching Cody O back in the box, that's a song that lights a fire under, especially a calf over the back in the box to just want to go as fast as you can.
And now here you find yourself going head to head with his team.
Yeah, and I hope it's the same outcome as last year, but I'm just happy to be there.
Who's the best calf roper you've ever watched rope?
Ooh, that's a tough question. Um,
That is a hot seat question.
I would, Rob, are we talking modern day or?
Just in your lifetime. So I don't know how much you watched as a kid in person or on TV or any of that, but the person that you've seen. I feel like you told me that you kind of set runs up similarly to Fred Whitfield, another
Yes,
coach
ma'am.
of Kid Rock Radio, right?
Yes, ma'am. I would probably have to say Fred would probably have to be the best, in my opinion.
Why?
Granted, Roy Cooper taught everybody's style pretty much comes from Roy Cooper, but my style is kind of based a little bit off of Fred's, and my size is from my size and style of tying is from Fred. A little mixture of Fred, Corey Solomon, and Scott Cormos, just because their body size is a little bit closer to mine, to where we have to flank cattle correctly. The first time we're not as big and strong to be able just to manhandle all the cattle, but that's just
For
kind of my
for
picks
those
there.
for those who don't know, you're 5'7", 185, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And for example, Shad Mayfield is 6'3", 200, so it's quite a different body type. But
Yeah.
if people aren't familiar, Scott Cormos was extraordinary. He was so quick and so fast. But you said something to me about Fred being an animal from the time his left hand left the saddle horn, right?
Yes, ma'am. That Fred, he would go 2, 3 swings, set it up from the saddle horn, and when his hand left that horse, I mean, it was all or nothing. He was going as fast as possible, and he rarely made any mistakes. And that's kind of what I looked forward to, and I always tried to kind of base my style of tying off of him, just to where I know our guys always told me that you win and lose the rodeo with your string. Granted, you can't time before you catch them, but you also have to finish your run.
Yeah. Tommy Joe, I feel like I'm totally hogging him. I apologize. Do you have things that you've been burning a hole in your pocket to ask him?
Well, no. Um, Travis, you can probably, I'm not the timed event guy in this group. Okay. That's just the truth. I'm more the rough stock guy. But
Yes,
I
sir.
do have some overall questions. For one, if you don't know much about the WCRA, you are the poster boy. Okay. If they want to put a picture up of what the WCRA and that setup with nominations, and by the way, some of you may have heard this and not understand, but a really quick thing. Essentially, you can pay some money and nominate a rodeo you're entered in. And if
Yes.
you do well, you get points. And the WCRAs went in and weighted them. So if it's a bigger event, you get more points. And it allows you basically an opportunity to win off of one entry fee, or at least win entrance on one entry fee at that rodeo. And so you're kind of the poster boy because this thing was really what it really leans itself to is someone that's not necessarily going to rodeo full time, just like you in college, and it gives you an opportunity to win big money. So remind me again, what'd you win in Corpus this year?
Um, the amount,
Yeah, close to it.
uh, I believe it was
21.5.
500, I believe.
And what can you win in AT&T?
I do believe it's like a little over 27,000 there.
Yeah. And so, like I said, you're the poster boy for what the WCRA's opportunities are for people that maybe aren't full time. But the thing about it is there's some of these guys that are full time that if they look at that opportunity, they could probably rake it in. But anyway, so you seem like a smart kid. Here's my burning question, Kendra. You seem like a really smart man, kid, because I'm old. Smart man. Um, I mean, you kill bugs and you went to college, you got degrees, and you smoke Chad when you need to. But here's the deal. Do you have a grasp on all the rules of that deal when you ride in there? Honestly?
Mm, I'm not gonna say on all of them. Um, I know just the base of the rules, but honestly, I don't really think much about it. I just trying to do my job the best I can and let it all hang out.
And I agree, you know, the fastest guy wins. But this is a little unique, right, Jarvis, in that your start time is they tell you when to go, right? Like
Yes, sir.
and so it seems to me that figuring that out is the key.
Yes, sir.
Hitting that on time, right? You don't have to be a rocket scientist. So and go fast. Because if you miss that and get penalized, right? If you miss it, if you go in yellow, you get a penalty, right? There's different penalty times, but you can have a fast as hell run, and if you miss that go time, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now, did you
Yeah,
do
it's
anything? Did you do anything mentally? Is there anything that you're doing that's targeting hitting that green light that you would share?
so.
I mean, don't give away your secrets. Don't give away your secrets.
Oh, it's all right. If they can try, they can do it. I mean, kudos to them. But actually, my girlfriend is probably gonna do it again here in a little bit when she turns kids out. But she starts counting. She picks a number. She starts counting from, and whatever number she chooses, when the light goes green, to where it makes me react as fast as the calf leaves. And my calves tend to run pretty hard, and so I gotta react a little bit faster and be paying attention. My horse has to be spot on, and so that's kind of how I practiced last week before I left, and kind of my game plan for it.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, and
I
there.
think I would love, sorry, I keep cutting it. I think it's super interesting that, and I'm making this assumption, but not everybody rides the same horse as usual or whatever. it's vitally important more than ever, more than anywhere else, to have a horse that really scores, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's kind of tricky with Stanley. He actually, not many know it, but he doesn't score the very best. The best he's ever scored is probably within the last year of me having him. Um, but now, like I can get him to score off my hand, but he reacts off the gates, which kind of helps me a little bit more there to where the sounds of the dings there, he wanted to react just a little bit, but he won't move until I turn my hand loose. But to where when the gates opened and I turned him loose, he was firing with everything he had. He was ready to go.
Now, an interesting thing that I found in the ground rules, Kendra, that you might find interesting, that I thought was you cannot borrow a horse from another team, regardless
No,
of what happens.
no.
Yeah. So you can only pull from your team's horses, right, Jarvis? That's the way I read it.
Yeah, well, somebody told me that the other day, and I hadn't got to read it yet, but that is what I've been told. Which, granted, for me, I feel more comfortable on something that I ride here at the house, whether it's my practice horse or whether it's my good horses, one or the other, rather than jumping on somebody else's. But yeah, it's a different deal there to where if Lord forbid if something were to happen to somebody's horses, you can't. Hey, your best friend has a really good horse that you've rode for a few times. They're not going to allow you to go over and jump on that one, and there's a chance that sooner or later you two may have to compete against each other, and then you're out of luck on horses.
Well, it's really interesting in the bulldogging where those guys are used to picking their favorite horse and swapping around, right? And I know you guys do that a little bit
Yeah.
in the calf roping, but especially in the bulldogging. So it really matters who's on your team because that's your portfolio of horses if anything happens, which I thought was an interesting kind of side note to the ground rules.
Yes, sir. And bulldoggers are, granted, their horses are a lot easier to get along with, other than sometimes in the box, but uh, that darn sure makes it pretty difficult there. To where calf ropers we're less likely to jump on a different horse than what we're used to, rather than bulldoggers. I mean, I still wrestle as well. To where if I see a horse that looks like I may get along with him or I really like, I'll ride him. But me, I only ride one that I trust.
Well, one other question for you. So, for all of you people that are listening to this, we have some fans that are not knee deep in rodeo. Kid Rock Rodeo is team rodeo. And in that, when we're talking about the lights going, when Jarvis makes his run, there'll be another guy going at exactly the same time. And the the guy that finishes first, I guess, without the penalties, right? Because your naked eye might look like he won, but if he hit the box early and went on yellow, he would get a penalty. But does the other person competing have any impact on you guys, you think? Like knowing they're going at the same time?
Yes, seeing that. I mean, calf roping is always the fastest time wins. I mean, all times events are, but when going like we're about to go on Friday, you're going against somebody else, so where their gates open same time, to where whoever hits the start first gets them rope, gets them tied the fastest, wins their match, and is able to move on. It's kind of to where they move on to the winners bracket and losers bracket, to where it kind of makes you dig a little deeper and try to go a little faster and try a little harder for it.
That's cool. That's cool. Let me see if I had. You're the poster boy, definitely for the WCRA. That's cool. Congratulations on all your accomplishments and your demeanor. It's going to take you far. You can tell you were raised right. Mama got you by the ear every now and then, didn't she?
Oh, a lot of the times.
Okay. Well,
That
I
well,
want to ask him two things before we say thank you and let him go practice. But one, Jarvis, are you ready to show Shad that pressure really may make water run uphill Friday night?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, I talked to him this morning. I told him I hope I get to match him because I'm trying him again. And
Okay.
we're,
If
we're
you
going
had
to
to
see.
pick one emotion that would best describe your feeling after being there last year about returning to AT&T, what would it be? Are you excited? Are you nervous? What are you?
Well, I think the nerves will probably won't be there now because I've never been in a stadium that big. Like I've never even seen the Thomas and Mack Arena, and so I think I won't be as nervous this year. But I'm kind of excited to where this year I kind of know what's coming to where Dalton Porsche texts me to where I can tell him, hey, this is how it is. He has the setup of the arena. Okay, this is what you're going to have to do is to be the same setup, shorter arena, and you got to go head to head with a chance of going against one of the world champs, and it's different.
Well, and I think too, it's kind of fun. I mean, you're from Tiny Bags, Oklahoma, and your teammate Dalton Porch is from Tiny Kadoka, South Dakota, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so and yet last year I was mesmerized by this underdog named Jarvis Demery, but you can't claim that. You can't be called that anymore, can you?
No, no. As of now, I mean, there's quite a few people that kind of know who I am. But thanks to that rodeo, it's helped out quite a bit. But I mean, I hope to keep getting
I mean,
better.
you know that you belong. Confidence is everything, right? But
Yes, ma'am.
you know you belong now, and thanks in a large way to two rodeos, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
Very cool.
it feel more comfortable with being around those guys, which I've roped against all of them for the last 15 years, and so it sure for sure made me feel like I that's where I belong.
Well, the flip side of that is when you rode in last year, everything was probably going so fast and so bright and so much happening that you really didn't have a chance to overthink it, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you were just reacting, right? You were just you probably spent 5 minutes looking at the size of that video screen. That's what everybody does when they ride in there is think if that thing falls on me, we're all dying. But
yeah. And the stage is right there next to us, and I hadn't got to ride in there yet until I walked in there. Well, that was kind of different for me.
How
yeah,
do you feel
well,
about the Dallas Cowboys?
My uncles are probably not going to be happy with what I'm about to say, but they are not my team. But I mean, I cheer for them sometimes, but there's not much to watch one of their games, but
Okay.
well, Cowboys fan or not, uh, you've got three of us rooting for you and a whole lot of other fans out there. I hope you kick their ass. I really, really do. Um, and um, and congratulations to the WCRA for making opportunities and the PBR for putting you guys in AT&T and T and for for growing this sport and giving you a chance to win 50 grand in a couple of weeks and put your name on the chart with everybody else. So congratulations.
yes, sir. Well, thank you, and you guys remember to nominate. It's only going to get bigger and better every day.
Well, good luck. We'll see you there Friday night.
Yes,
Thanks,
ma'am.
Jarvis.
Thank you, guys.
You bet. Well, I don't know if it was on my end or not. It seemed like he kind of broke up in the end, and I didn't hear much about his Dallas Cowboys stuff. Maybe the one of you two guys did. It might have just
No,
been on my
I didn't.
end.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
No, I didn't either. But that's all good.
What a good young man. That's really cool.
Yes.
That's really cool. Well, on the Kid Rock Rodeo, a few things that I think are interesting is that the coaches, like you said, Kendra, their matches, who matches up against who, and the order, and they're going to do all 3 rounds of the bareback riding. And in the rough stock, the way it works, and I mentioned this earlier, Kendra, is that the first seed team in the first round goes first in an arena to the left. And then as soon as the judge says arena clear, the competing guy that's riding against him has 30 seconds to nod his head. And now it does say that the judge can stop that 30-second clock for reasons, but whatever that is. But so you'll look left and see in the winning score advances. But what I did think was interesting, some interesting things that are interesting to me, they're going to do all the bareback 3 rounds. Then they're going to do all the saddle broncs, barrels, team roping, end it with timed events in the first one. And then there's the final. They get gold medals if they win their match. And the accumulation of gold medals for the team gets the top 2 teams at the very end to go head to head to win it. Right? So in case you're watching this, at least you kind of realize, wait, what's going on with the gold medals? What's going on? They're basically counting up their match wins equals gold medals, and the gold medals round up to be the top 2 teams that go in the shootout round at the very, very end for the big money. So a little bit of explanation on Kid Rock Rodeo coming up at AT&T with the WCRA and the team and the PBR and Sean Gleason and all those guys that have put this together. Thanks to Robert Simpson for sending me a bunch of information. I've got the lineup of teams here. I'll tell you what, there is some real talent on all these teams. Yeah, there's the graphic in case, I know Kendra can't see it because she's a hot topic today, but you can see where they play matches all the way to the gold medal round, the winners of the rounds advancing in 3 rounds. And it is interesting this year because they did add this rough stock clock, and they have the 2 arenas where they're bucking, boom, 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 so we'll see. It was really long last year, Kendra. And the overall concept for me last year was a general fan. I mean, even if you've listened to our show today or watched us, you still probably have questions. There's a lot of rules and a lot to swallow to understand what's going on. But what you don't have to be is an expert, because the nice thing about it is you watch 2 people go and the winner advances, right? And as long as it's good, fair competition, I think it's a fun way to present the sport of rodeo.
Well, one thing that because my phone is on the brink of overheating again, that I can't look up, but do you guys know offhand if people aren't going to be at AT&T, is it on CBS?
I think it's on Ride Pass. Now, I don't know if it's on CBS. We will have to check, but I do know it. I'm pretty sure it's on Pluto Ride Pass. That's what I think.
Okay.
I should have researched that.
Yeah, I know Corpus was on Ride Pass, but they are producing a CBS show for it.
I see. Well, we'll find out later. But
also, I did watch some of Corpus, and for some reason there was a glitch with Ride Pass, so they diverted us to the PBR app, and that's what I watched it on. But
yeah,
anyway.
PBR has a ton of platform apps out there that you can get PBR content now as they're rolling around figuring out where their long-term broadcast partner will be. But there's a lot of ways to find it. If you try to understand it, I think your head might explode. Like really, really, really understand everything. So Kendra, you may pop out a few gray hairs before it's all over, but overall, it's a cool concept, and it's going to be fun to watch because this lineup are stacked. I mean, you've got John Douche, you got Struckness, you've got Wright, you've got Wags. I mean, it's cool.
Pretty important, Tommy Joe, that you pronounce John Douche's last name correctly, if you don't mind.
Well, I figured you were going to correct me, and I thought, I did it wrong. Typically, you correct me with your stiletto, so anyway.
Well, that one's pretty important, but anyway. Yeah, and not to mention, I mean, the coaching staff, Trevor Brazil, Cody Old, Joe Beaver, Fred Whitfield, Charmaine James. I mean, that's so cool.
Well, and at first I thought, what are the coaches besides just kind of little trophy points? but they do decide who competes against who. They actually place, the way I understand it, they pick the rough stock rider once they see the draw, similar to what the PBR bull riding team coaches do. Once they see the draw, they then get with their team members in the bareback riding and figure out who to put on this horse in the bronc riding or the bareback riding. So the coaches are definitely impactful in the overall win.
I think
And
it's really cool. And I, before I completely step on it, since I've been eating barbecue sandwich up here with them, the winning coaches last year were Hall of Fame bareback rider Bobby Moat and the Women's Rodeo Championship Commissioner Lindsay Rosser Sumter. Before I leave that out, I mean, they did. I mean, a team of underdogs last year, made up of undrafted players, won this thing last year.
Hey, I got a real quick question. How many team members are there per discipline?
Two.
Two. Okay. And then to kind of go over the rough stock clock, Tommy, it was interesting in Corpus to see that very few people even came close to the running out of the 30 seconds. It was usually within 3 or 4 seconds when they said already that those guys were going. And I was in a conversation where they were talking about rules and how this thing would go, and the judges are very aware of what goes on, and they understand that there's certain points where they will pause the clock because of the animals down on the ground, or there's some kind of an issue like that. So it's not a hard and fast 30 seconds, to say the least, but it's when everything's ready, they're going to run that clock just to make sure those guys go.
Interesting about that is, I wonder if they also do that in the timed events. Sometimes
Mhm.
a calf or a steer will get down the chute. I wonder if they do that.
They did that.
I don't know.
They did do that in Corpus. They had a calf get down and they paused the clock or reset. Sometimes they would just reset the clock. So it's not a hard and fast thing, but it's more of like when everything's ready, the thing rolls. You're not going to have a chance to circle your horse or whatever just to kill some time.
So they're trying to make it contestant friendly. I
Yes.
thought one of the most fascinating clock events from Corpus Christi, for me by far the most fascinating, was the barrel race. And do you know how many, quote, broken barriers they had of people who crossed the plane of the arena?
There was a couple.
Before the clock? More than a couple.
I can matter of fact, I have some videos that I shot of the barrel racing just to kind of show what would how it happens.
Well, what's interesting for people who don't know, it's like if you break the plane of the arena before the clock is to zero, you get a +5, just like as if you hit a barrel.
Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, here's what it looks like, just so people who are watching can see what happens. So they're in the back right now, and the red lights are up, and there's a little clock counting down in the top corner there. And what happens is as they come across the line there, you can see we put the reaction time up on the screen that she was 5 seconds, early, or half a second early, not 5 seconds early. And so she ran her time. And then, she gets a score. And then there's another one where she breaks the clock and it comes up red, and she gets a 5-second penalty at the end of it. So it's a timing. I was telling Tommy earlier, it's definitely a timing issue for the barrel racers. And I think it's the hardest change in their event. See, she comes through, and she
went on yellow, so
yeah.
She got a penalty. Yeah,
she was over second early.
What's interesting is the different strategies with all of this, because some of the barrel racers, they got to the back of the alley, the top of the alley or whatever, and they were like about 3 or 4 seconds before go time, they turned their horse loose and just took the chance. And plenty of them, quote, broke the barrier, or whatever. And then others of them who
way
had a
behind,
little bit more control of their horse or whatever, they just kind of, walked up there. And the ones that were able to, just have their horse just kind of chill out, it was a lot easier for them. And I also thought in the breakaway it was interesting, because I watched Chad Mayfield in the box. He was looking up at the scoreboard. He watched that score count down. No coincidence that he rode his roan horse Rampage, that he could just sit there and not worry about him and watch the clock himself. But those girls, the Martha Angelonis and Jackie Crawfords, they had Shad Mayfield in there watching the scoreboard clock for them and telling them what to do. They're watching the calf, but they're listening to Shad. It was fascinating.
Well, and there's some strategy there, because if it's a half a second penalty, right, Greg? If you go on yellow, do you take, it's taking that chance, because if you're a half a second late on green, it's the same issue. And if you checked your horse up, you got to restart him again. So there's probably a million approaches in all the disciplines to this, which is what's really intriguing about this, especially the second year. Now that the first year, I think it just punched everybody in the face, like it was what the hell's going on. But now we're starting to get our boots in the mud a little bit. It's pretty fascinating how it's going to work.
Yes, for sure.
And every member of the winning team winning over 27 grand is a pretty fun thing. So.
And there's what, 16? How many disciplines are there? So just so you know, everybody, there's bareback riding, saddle bronc riding, barrel racing, team roping, breakaway, tie down, and steer wrestling. There is no bull riding in the Kid Rock Rodeo. So that's the ones you've got. You got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So yeah, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Any final? So I think it's really cool that you're there at Cowtown. That, I'll tell you what the PBR and the PBR Properties has done to the inside of Cowtown Coliseum is absolutely stunning. It is a great place to go watch an event now.
It is really nice. And when we leave here and go to AT&T, that's going to be 3 straight days of the Kid Rock, and then the 2 final grand finale days of the PBR finals. But this Fort Worth Stockyards is completely, it's a big change in our entire Western industry, and this place is hopping. And I will also say that we will be back here on Memorial Day to honor our friend Roy Cooper. This is where his big final send-off will be. So I'll be right back.
Well, all of you stay tuned. You've got the best journalist in the business. She's on site at Cowtown and AT&T, reporting live with all of the goods. On behalf of myself, Kendra Santos, Greg Teagarden, thank you for joining us. Thanks, Jarvis, for coming on. There's a bunch of fans rooting for you. Until next week, you guys be blessed.